Since you've been in the room in a lot of these discussions, what do you see as the thorniest issues going forward? What do you see right now? What are people talking about right now that are really being worked on?
Well, on substance, it's probably the governance and peace issues that are the most controversial. Some countries that insist on having not one goal on these issues, but two separate goals, because they view governance, with rule of law and capable institutions, voice and participation as one set of issues applied to all countries in equal measure. And then you have the issues of building secure peace, absence of violence and crime, as well as, of course, dealing with the aftermath of conflict as a separate kind of agenda. Now, some countries are in favor of one but not the other. And then you have a number of countries that don't want to see neither governance nor peace security in the agenda, because they consider them to be outside of the development context. This agenda is supposed to be about sustainable development. That's the economic, the social, and the environmental. Not about these political issues. We have other processes for them in the UN, so let's keep those issues outside of this agenda. What's interesting is that it's not exactly a north-south issue. You have a number of developing countries that are very much in favor of either a kind of a peace-oriented goal or a governance goal, or both. And you have a number of countries in the north who advocate very strongly for that, and others less so. Climate change is another tricky topic. Everyone knows that the real climate game is the climate negotiations, the UNFCCC process. And that also culminates in 2015, in November, in Paris. And a lot of people feel strongly that we should avoid any interference. On the other hand, you have those who argue, I think quite strongly and persuasively, that in this day and age, with what we know about climate change and the impacts of climate change, a development agenda for the next 15 years that does not incorporate climate change is not going to be seen as credible by a lot of people, and it will, quite frankly, be in some ways ineffective. You have to take climate change into account. So a number of people are looking at this and saying, okay, let's think about how can we make the targets under the different goals as climate smart as possible, so that you get climate action by the way you tackle, let's say, food security, sustainable cities, energy, and so on. And you can certainly get a lot of climate action if you do incorporate it in that way. But still, a number of countries feel that in addition to that, we need a specific goal designated to climate change, because that's how you mobilize people for action. There's also an issue that is not really so substantive as it is political, which has to do with what we in UN jargon very boringly call means of implementation. Means of implementation. And that is really about, okay, how will this agenda be supported in practice in terms of financing, issues related to diffusion or transfer of technology, how to deal with trade and debt and kind of investments and financing, the role of the private sector, a whole set of things that you need somehow to agree on in order for this agenda to be meaningful. You can set goals, but if there is no compact, no agreement internationally as to how these goals will be implemented, then it will not a lot will happen.
Right.
But here the views of countries of the north, countries of the south are quite different from each other, and there's a lot of bridge building, a lot of talking that is needed to move towards a common ground on that.